Today just want to run through quickly when can you reject the cars. But everyone is buying the cars from sellers, you bought this used car, Imperial Cars selling it, Imperial Auto Trade, and then you're wondering how I can return this bloody thing. But I'm gonna run quickly through. You have 3 occasions you can return it, reject it. But always consider, obviously, make your right decision. You're buying a car, you don't want to make your bad decision go through the rejection process, but how it works. You have 3 stages, right? But not always expect car can be rejected, because sometimes it's fault. If the fault develops after you bought a car, I don't know, a week or 2 weeks down the line, it doesn't mean the car is bad, right? It's just something is annoying. I understand. It happens with any consumable electrical equipment you're buying, even if it's new, or anything you would know you bought it yourself. It just happens. And remember, you're buying a used car, so used car, it depends again how old is the vehicle, will have some naggy issues, or maybe unfortunately some fault will develop, right? But just try and resolve this as smoothly as you can, and so that's why Consumer Act protects you. So in first 30 days of buying a vehicle, you can refuse the vehicle, you can reject it, right? You don't have to accept seller's offer to repair the vehicle. You can reject it. Again, you have to look and be sensible. How old is the vehicle? How many miles is done? What sort of fault it is? Are you unhappy because you just have an argument with your wife or husband or something like that? Or you just suddenly lost a job? You have to be reasonable of why you refusing. There have to be something seriously wrong, and normally if you talk with the reputable car seller, I'm pretty sure they will help you. So that's why you're also working with the car dealers to get them on board, to make them as transparent as possible, to make sure we know what cars they sell, and the cars they will sell, they're proud themselves of what they're selling, so everything is sort of rectified. That's along the line where car experiment goes. So by coming back to rejection, so that was your first step. Then the second step, you can reject it up to 6 months of final rejection. You would be, let me see the way they describe it so I'm not getting things wrong. So the final step would be you can reject it within the first 6 months, right? But then again, after those 30 days, you don't have any more right to refuse the repair. You have to allow the seller to rectify the car at least once. If that repair goes wrong, then you could have a right, not you would have a right, but you have a right to reject it, right? If they fail to rectify it, and the communication breaks down, and everything gets heated up, shit hits the fan, and you don't know what to do, then obviously do so. You can also ask for help. You can ask for get engineer's report, because at that point you would not have to go to the court. Even if you have to, engineer's report will be sufficient enough for you with more than obvious faults where there's no disputes, and the other side will refuse your engineer's report, and then allow just the court to get expert witness invited. In our wise, you don't really need a CPR or CRP report done before actually you go into the court. If you go into the small claims court, engineer's report will be sufficient enough, unless it's something complex where you're disputing the way the warranty works, or you're disputing some legal terms which you're not satisfied, which will be much more complex, and basically your legal advisor, your solicitor, will advise accordingly at what stage it will be, because normally it will start most easiest process. If you can negotiate things before it goes to the court, you know, or even goes to the first hearing, you know, in a small claims, you might settle the case just before court hearing, you know. So most of the things don't go to the court, but there are some complicated stuff which do go, you know, which are much more complex stuff, and just to be prepared, you know. And remember, those things cost money, so you have to evaluate in how big out of pocket you will be, and is it really worth it to actually start court proceedings, you know. So it's not going to be cheap, and unless you have substantial evidence and you know for fact, and you've done most complicated things, engineer's report initially, and solicitor advising you, and then obviously if there's a very nasty case, right, then obviously an independent engineer assessor is involved, or you can just wait for the court proceedings and ask. If they deny their fault, then obviously you can ask expert witness and do the necessary processes to get this rectified. But obviously that will be down to your legal help, you know. I'm just giving you a random ways. I personally don't want problems in my life. I will make sure I buy the right car, you know, at the first place, instead of jumping in, buying something for untrustful seller, where you will have to break through barriers actually to return the vehicle, or even in worst scenario, go to the court, you know. I don't think you really want to do that. So just be wary from who you're buying, why you're buying it, is the car as advertised, and are you fully satisfied? Check the complaints processes, the procedures of the when you're rejecting. Make sure you just clarify that. What are their rejection process? You know, what is, if I'm unsatisfied with something, you know, how willing they will be for you to rejecting the car, you know. Ask them what is their complaints process. Maybe they're registered with some ombudsman, you know, where it will be slightly easier to run through the process. But if not, it's just the standard civil procedure, you know. Get a report done by engineer, and then get it right. If they're not taking car back based on that engineer's report, again, they have to logically decide how bad that fault is, how bad, and whether that could be rectified, you know. Just try always talk those issues through with the seller. The communication, don't just clinch to your side, you know. If you're not sure, if you think seller tries to talk you out of certain things, get an engineer's report, get an opinion, you know, from person with experience, you know. And lastly, you got a final stage after the 6 months, but that's where it gets tricky, where you can reject the car, you know. And with this, it's down to you. If you bought this car and you want to reject it after 6 months, you have up to 6 years actually to file to reject the vehicle, or to go back to the seller, right? But at that point, you know, you have to prove the fault was present when the car has been sold, right? And that's not always possible. How are you going to prove it, you know? But that means if you've been driving and you never noticed it, you know, or it never happened, unless there is something latent, you know. But again, that is down to an engineer's report, and the last resource would be if it's a court, and it would be needed an expert witness, an independent expert witness who's going to give the evidence based on their report, if necessary. If the other side would, obviously, they would say, no, it's not our fault, and we're not accepting your claim, you know, and then you will need one. And obviously, like I said, solicitor will advise you accordingly. But when we come, as I explained, the 3 steps of rejecting the vehicle, the first one was in 30 days, the second one was in first 3 months, you know, I mean first 6 months, and within first 6 months, then you have those, if you had this vehicle more than 30 days, then as I mentioned, you have to give a dealer that one time to try to rectify it. But remember, after those 30 days, depends on your mileage, what you've driven. If you're rejecting it after those 30 days, within first 6 months, the dealer can deduct all the usage or any damages on the car, what you've done, you know, from the vehicle, and that is acceptable, you know. And when they're doing a refund, remember also they don't have to give you a refund there and then when you are angry and you say I want a refund. They have 14 days to refund you, you know. So remember, if you play by the rules, they have also some all set of rules, you know. So never just assume rejecting a car is the easiest option, you know. Make sure you are satisfied or unsatisfied for the reason, and you use common sense when rejecting, you know, the vehicle. If it's something really as bad as possible, and that would really probably affect the price, and you feel you've been missold. But again, you know, first 30 days you can do that. Most car supermarkets, they have their 7-day, 14-day policies when they just taking a car back, and afterwards you will have certain problems, but you would need then again proof if there are faults and they don't want to take the vehicle back. Again, when you buy a car, make sure you ask the vendor of their refund policies or cancellation policies, or the same rejection policy, you know, how and what's included and how many days and how many miles are allowed when they're giving you that sort of free offer. You know, most of the car supermarkets does that. If you're buying from smaller private sellers, not the private sellers you have no pretty much rights unless you've been missold, and you have all the details, so you can take them to court if you sort of assume so. But again, lengthy process. Don't do that. Don't check the car after you bought it. Check before you buy. You know, don't do things other way around. You know, trust me, you will save yourself a lot of time, hassle, unwanted stress, and your livelihood will be better. You will feel better because you're in control instead of you're not anymore in control where the seller is in control, because you already bought a car, you got it on finance, you got insured, you know, you got all this, you got all that. Then you also decide you reject the car, then you will something claiming back where they will not give you any compensation about that, and you'll be unhappy. So when you do those decisions, think it right, think it smart, be smart always, you know. Get car examiner inspectors to inspect the vehicle. We are experienced, we have great people on board, we're covering nationwide, UK nationwide. We try to work with sellers to make sure they selling good cars, we are satisfied, they're satisfied, and then end user is satisfied, and they know what you're buying, the car is as described, you would know what it is, you will know the scratch on it, you will know something, you know, unless something just, I don't know, altered, stops charging on the way and it cuts out. You know, there are unfortunate things which do happen. Remember, you just buying a used car, right? I own new cars, been driving past since 2007. I've been driving new vehicles, and new vehicles have faults, you know. And don't just assume you're gonna buy a used car and that vehicle will not have any faults. It will have fair wear and tear. Some cars might have more scratches than others, which is fair wear and tear. People drive. Remember, you're buying the car from somebody who used the car, so that will be depend on the driver how he actually used the vehicle. You know, that's how good the vehicle will be. So that's why it's important get somebody professional to inspect this vehicle. Have a look yourself in the detail. Don't just go there with a way of like you've been so attracted in a sale, or so blinded about your excitement, where your excitement blinds you about certain things, you know, and you go, you lock the deal, you buy the car, and then you're dissatisfied, you know. Look at a car, don't buy the same day. You know, look at some other cars, don't buy the first car, you know. Get an inspector, check it, make the right decision. Remember, good seller will never rush you to buy the vehicle, you know. And if they do rush you, and if you're undecided, normally you will be undecided because do you want this vehicle? Do you want a black or white? Do you want it with the air conditioner or without? I mean, say for instance, right? Do you want a convertible or hardtop? Or is the car maybe too expensive? Or you're undecided? Maybe you want a saloon, maybe, or you want a pickup truck, you know, or you might want a hatchback or sedan, you know. So these are the things. Sometimes you might not even, unrealizing yourself, you might not even be on a right vehicle, you know. And then when you're buying something, when you're undecisive, maybe your partner will like it, you're buying something, and then you're trying to reject based on something, on emotions, right? So don't just make the right decision first. If you've never driven the vehicle you want to buy, drive it. You know, don't get caught into these unnecessary legal stuff, because you can avoid them. If you are smart, you know, I'm not trying to sell you here, but I know, get it checked. You know, remember, you're buying a used car, it's not a brand new car, you know, and the used car has problems. Brand new cars have problems, you know. We work for you, we want you to have a good car, we want you to buy the car with confidence, because when we do inspections, we check the vehicle as we would be buying the vehicle for ourselves. I know not always sellers will like it, but that's life. They need to understand customer has a right of choice, you know. And that's where carexpert.com inspectors getting involved, you know, and then you can make a right decision. But however, getting back to rejection, yes, you have first 30 days where you can reject the vehicle, you don't have to accept any repairs. Then secondly, from 30 days to up to 6 months, you have to allow them to rectify the issue. If it fails, you can reject it. Be mindful, always try to, don't be angry, you know, but just try, create relationship, you know, work with the seller, you know, get second opinion, get engineer's report, right? And if that repairs fail, if you're still dissatisfied, yes, you know, feel free to go even to the small claims court if necessary. I agree. If you're done, you know, it's life. You have to take some steps. You know, remember, everything costs money: time, solicitor, letters, engineer's report, probably expert witness. If the case is complicated, but that normally will be too complicated to when the repairs are failing, when the garage haven't done the repair correctly, you know, and certain things like engine failures, and why they fail and how, whose fault. That's where it gets tricky, you know. But normal straight car rejections and things like that, they're pretty much straightforward, you know. There is a fault. If it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not. What fault it is, how quickly it could be rectified. Make sure they specialize what they do, and the car gets repaired at the garage who actually knows this car well, like independent specialist for that make and model. And now at least the things will be diagnosed correctly, rectified, much quicker than somebody who haven't specialize on that particular vehicle. A little tip. And then the next one, lastly, after 6 months, yes, you have the time limit up to 6 years to reject a vehicle or put a claim against the seller, but you have to, burden of proof relies to you. You will have to prove it, the fault was present at the time of the sale, and I, from my experience, I can tell you that's not always possible to prove it. Again, depends what it is. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, click subscribe. If you can add some of your experience, comments, experiences you had, just put them below. I will try answer your questions. If you want to know something about it a bit more, reach out. I will do some other video for you. It's not super detailed. In the process of litigation, I'm not a solicitor. I'm just giving you advice. I don't want problems in my life, you know, and I don't think you want. We already had too many problems during the past year, so I don't think you want another unnecessary burden where you're making a rash decision when buying a car. So make sure you don't, you know. And we work for you. We work for car sellers if they believe what they sell. Take care.